It's time to take off your clothes, enjoy clothes-free living, and join us for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
Welcome to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, the show that celebrates clothes-free living for all. I'm your host, Frank Stone.
And I'm your correspondent, Lisa Monroe, and I'll be reporting on all things within the naturist community. So it's time to get naked and join us.
And enjoy clothes-free living on Naked, Nudists, and Naturists. Well, welcome on in to Naked, Nudists, and Naturists, episode 20 today. Thank you very much for being with us. We enjoy having you with us. We look forward to this time together, and we know that you do too. We are in this journey together, living the clothes-free life for all of the right reasons and in all of the right situations. In the USA, we don't go running down the street with no clothes on. It's not allowed here. It is allowed in other countries, and hats off to them for allowing that and doing it for all of the right reasons. Not allowed here, so we need to be safe and be concerned and keep safety and appropriateness in mind. Otherwise, let's go for it. Let's take your clothes off. Nudism, naturism, living the clothes-free life for all of the right reasons. Whatever we call it, it all boils down to the same thing. We get rid of the barriers and we just enjoy each other and each other's time and getting to know each other a lot better too. A lot of people have written in they only listen to this show when they are clothes-free. So if they're driving somewhere, they don't put it on. If they're in the grocery store, they'll listen to something else. This show, they wait until they can be clothes-free to listen. However you listen, clothes-free, clothes on, that's your choice. And you go by whatever time is available. We are just glad that you do listen. The numbers are huge, and that's thanks to you for listening. And it keeps us going here. We enjoy that a lot. We get a lot of messages from listeners on Twitter, through email, through our website, through Spotify, and we respond to every single one. But on today's show, we will read some of those to you. We even have a voicemail from one of our listeners. We will play that as well. An extended segment with Lisa Monroe, our weekly correspondent on naturism. She'll be here for an extended segment. And we will also have part 2 of my interview with the terrific Tim Chismar, basically Mr. Everything when it comes to being naked, clothes-free, nudism, naturism, you name it. And Tim Chismar has done it all and continues to do it all. Now, can you imagine yourself on stage, let's say in a theater that holds, 500 people, 1,000 people, whatever. You're on stage naked in front of the entire audience and you're telling jokes. Getting on stage and telling jokes is enough to give a lot of people cause for concern. What if they don't laugh? What if they think I'm a bum? And now you're doing it without your clothes on. Well, Tim Chismar has done that a lot. In fact, he had a lot of naked comedy nights where every comic was naked and everybody in the audience was naked. And to me, that's the best way to enjoy the clothes-free life. Social naturism, for lack of a better term. Just enjoy getting together. If you noticed from last week's show on episode 19, part 1 of my interview with Tim Chismar, he sounded like one of the happiest guys we've ever met. Probably because he is. He lives the clothes-free life, barrier-free, and has for many years. So part 2 of my interview today with the terrific Tim Chismar. We do want to remind you that we come to you with a brand new show every single Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time on Spotify, and it's different times around the world, wherever you happen to live. Generally, for example, the UK is 5 hours ahead of Eastern Time. When we get into the whole daylight savings time thing, it gets a little discombobulated for a few weeks. Australia can be 15, 16, 17 hours ahead of us. You know how to figure all that out, thank goodness. But 6 a.m. Eastern Time every Saturday morning, a brand new show hits Spotify. And moments later, it hits our website. I'll give you that address in a minute. And then at some point, maybe right away, maybe an hour or 2 or 3 or 4, we don't know, it hits every podcast platform under the sun. We are not in control of that. The only thing that we can control is hitting Spotify at 6 a.m. Eastern Time and hitting our website shortly thereafter. Everything else is left to the land of podcast world /technology / however all of that stuff works. But our website, nakednudistsandnaturist.com, visit there early and often. Leave some comments there. Check out everything that we have there. Lisa Monroe gets up very early on Saturday mornings. And as I mentioned, this show hits Spotify at 6 a.m., and she tries to get it on our website by 6:01, 6:02, 6:03 at the latest. And so hats off and a gigantic thank you to Lisa Monroe for doing that. And so you have two places to go right away at 6 a.m. or shortly thereafter every Saturday morning. The best way to reach us, if you have something to say or something to ask, through Twitter. Just find us there, Naked Nudist and Naturist. Type that in the search bar. You'll find us. You can send us a direct message, and we do respond to everything. Whether it's myself or our administrative assistant, Jennifer Hill, one of us will respond to you. She has ongoing conversations with multiple people, as do I. But if you're writing in for the first time, you'll get one of us. And if you want the other, just ask. No problem. No harm, no foul here. Whoever you want to talk to, we will get that person in touch with you. You can also reach us through email. As I've mentioned, we've had some issues with email. A couple of people doing some nefarious things out there. We're working on all that. But you can still reach us at email, NakedForeverMore@gmail.com. That's NakedForeverMore@gmail.com. You can also leave messages on our website and also on Spotify. We check them all, we read them all, and then from time to time we read some of those on the show, and as I mentioned, we'll do that today. So if you get a moment, send us a message on one of those platforms. Let us know how it's going for you. What do you do for naturism, nudism, clothes-free life for all the right reasons? And by what do you do, we mean, how do you live the life? Do you come home and get naked and stay that way until you leave the house again? Are you a regular member/visitor of a club? Do you go to the naked beach all the time? How do you live your clothes-free life? We're just interested. We won't publicize any of that or publish it. Just interested in general how you live your clothes-free life. You know how we live it here. We have a clothes-free studio office environment. We don't have people walking in off the street to do business with us, so there's never a concern about that. It's just us. We do our thing. And we do it nude, and then we go home. Not a big deal around here. And then when we get home, everybody on staff, I'm told, now again, I haven't checked up on this in person, everybody on staff lives the clothes-free life as well. They get dressed to leave, they go home, they walk in, and the clothes come off again. Because what is better than that? Living barrier-free. Who wants to be restricted? Nobody. Nobody wants to be under restrictions. So getting the clothes off frees your mind, your body, your soul, emotionally, physically. It's just the greatest feeling in the world, as you know, because that's why you're here. If you are brand new to naturism, nudism, clothes-free living for all the right reasons, then you're hearing this message at just the right time. You're thinking, okay, if I take my clothes off and just walk around my house naked all day, is that kind of weird? No, it's not weird at all. It's actually very normal. Remember, as just about everybody points out, we were born naked. Of course, the running joke is if God had wanted us to be naked, he would have made us born naked. Well, he did. We didn't come out in a three-piece suit or an evening gown. No, we came out naked as God intended. So if he intended it then, he probably intends it for now. But as you know, society somewhat became discombobulated over the years and clothes went on, sometimes for weather purposes, as people migrated to colder climates. You can't just be naked when it's 0 degrees outside. That's a little bit foolish, but otherwise, yeah, clothes-free living for all the right reasons. And again, we enjoy hearing from you early and often. Please feel free to write in, and we do look forward to this time with you on every Saturday morning. I mentioned Lisa Monroe gets up early and gets it on the website. Well, I'm up early, too. I'm usually in the studio quite early every morning while it's still dark. And I listen to the show with you. If you're listening to it at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, I'm listening with you because we need to hear our own shows. Might sound a little self-serving, but, we need to hear our own show and exactly what we're doing and how we're doing it. So if you're up early on a Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time, although that might be the afternoon or evening, depending on where you live, we are listening clothes-free together. How about that? For no particular reason, at the beginning of the show, I forgot to tell you, come on in. The water is fine. It feels great. Get your clothes off, dive in, maybe have a hamburger that's on the grill. We're just ready for a great day and a great hour here. You're listening to Naked Nudists and Naturists, episode 20 today. We really thank you for being with us. And now let's head into our naturism correspondent, weekly correspondent, Lisa Monroe. So let's bring in our weekly correspondent, all about naturism, the terrific Lisa Monroe. Good morning, Lisa. How are you today?
Good morning, Frank. I'm doing terrific. And how about you?
Not bad, and I can tell you're doing well. You, once again, for the 20th time, it's episode 20, you walked in smiling, ready to go, and somewhat dancing to your theme music, so life is good around here. How about that?
Life is very good. It's great club theme music and fun to dance. So, might as well get this party started.
That's right. I wonder how many of our listeners go around hearing your theme song in their heads and picturing your voice and maybe dancing a little jig themselves in aisle 3 of the grocery store.
Well, I hope they're enjoying the theme song and definitely dancing a jig in the grocery store, because what else can you do in the grocery store but wonder where they put things again?
That's right. I wonder if they're caught dancing on aisle 3 and to your theme song, if the manager comes up and, sir or ma'am, what are you dancing to? It looks like a fun song. Do they tell what the song is?
Oh, I hope they do. It would be nice if they did, but somehow I get the feeling many won't probably do that.
That's right. I'm dancing to Lisa's naked song.
Yeah,
Leave me alone.
exactly.
That's right. Well, we have a couple more emails today we wanted to go through. We did a bunch on last week's show. And this one is from JP. We don't give full names unless we have permission to do so. We don't seek that permission, but sometimes people will tell us, give my full name. In the case of Will Forrest, D.H. Jonathan last week, obviously they want their full names out there because they're selling books. This one is from JP, and if you don't mind, Lisa, can you go ahead and read that for us?
I would be glad to. From JP, he says, I enjoyed episode 15. I was pondering on the remark that was made about men making it so women had to cover their breast. I'm wondering if it could be that the wives of those men who were trying to control their husbands. Just a random thought. But whoever is responsible, it doesn't make sense. I worry that society is actually going the wrong way on this issue. I think the medical know-it-alls have convinced many that the sun is our enemy. The textile industry likes to sell things too. You sure made me want to go to the Canary Islands. Thanks for your show.
A relatively short email, but a whole lot to unpack there.
He covered some territory.
He did. He did. Let's start. Obviously, he enjoyed episode 15, so thank you, JP, for that. The remark that he made about women having to cover their breasts, wondering if it could have been the wives of the men. I don't know. What do you think? Like, hey, all women keep your tops covered because my husband's going out on the town tonight, and I don't want him. I do want him coming home. I don't want him going astray. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, there's a whole lot of things to unpack there.
Yeah.
I'm going to say this. I would hope that any wife, girlfriend, whatever,
Yeah.
would trust their husband enough that if they walked into some place where people were naked, they would just go, "Oh, look at them, they're naked." Oh, maybe even remark if they chose to, but walk away. So
Yeah.
I'm hoping, because I don't. I'm not the kind of person that likes the wives who go, "You can't do that."
Hmm.
And so I think that that's a little bit of a control issue, and I
Yeah.
hope that's not what's happening.
Yeah, I probably not. I think he was throwing it out there for conversation and consumption. Men controlled everything in the world forever, and that's when these rules started. And I think that's where it came from.
Yeah.
Always willing to hear some other sides of the coin, of course. Now, he also mentioned he thinks society is going the wrong way on this issue. As he put it, the medical know it alls have convinced many that the sun is our enemy. And as I've talked to medical people, and by the way, if you talk to 10 medical people, you'll get 10 different opinions, at least slightly different, tweaking here or there. So that's where it's hard to nail it down. They talk about, follow the science, trust the science, but you talk to 10 scientists, you get 10 different answers on the same question. But I have heard over and over and over from enough people that I actually believe it now, and I hope I'm believing the correct thing. Yeah, the sun is very good for you. All the vitamin D and getting out in the sun every day, not 10 hours baking in the 100-degree sun with no suntan lotion. That's ridiculous. But getting out and enjoying it and getting sun on your skin, highly beneficial, right?
It's very beneficial, and vitamin D is, totally and completely necessary for us to live properly. Our bodies need that, and to metabolize the things that we need to do. But The one thing about vitamin D is that increased sun on your skin increases your vitamin D exposure, which is good because vitamin D actually can be somewhat of a detriment to problems that sun gives to skin, like uh, basal cell cancers and things like that. So vitamin D helps in some ways protect us from that. But too much exposure and even that won't work. So there's
Right.
a happy medium. It's a lot of, issues about sunscreens and what's in them, and you need to do your due diligence and find out what the least invasive product is to use, and be
Hmm.
reasonable. Don't stay out 27 hours in the sun,
Yeah.
every day.
Right. Right.
And stay out of those really bad times, the 10 to 12 or the 11 to 1, I think it is, more that midday sun when it's beating down right on you. Try
Yeah.
to stay out of it as much as possible then. But just be smart. I grew up going to the beach all the time and in the sun all the time. So those of us who grew up in that before sunscreen was a real thing, we probably have done the damage to our skin that we're ever going to do. And we can aggravate that, but we still need to be smart now. But the younger people need to really start to be cognizant of that and protect themselves and still enjoy the sun.
Yeah. Yeah, very much so. Now, he also mentioned the textile industry likes to sell things too. And I remember we had Linda Weber on the show several episodes ago,
Hmm.
and she caught on to that as a youth. I think she started at age 14 hating clothes or just not wanting to be in clothes because kids at school, you had to have the cool clothes to fit in. And she thought that was beyond ridiculous. Like, okay, so I'm a better person if I wear this particular brand of jeans. Well, that's beyond ludicrous. So she just said, forget it. I'm wearing no jeans, and we'll go from there. But that's true. A $1 billion industry, clothing, the makeup, all the stuff that they encourage us to wear as men and women. They can't afford to have that go away because that's what pays for their yachts and their vacation homes on every beach in the world, right?
It's a multi-billion-dollar industry, and no, it is not
Yeah.
going to go away, not
Mm.
without kicking and screaming. So, there are lobbyists everywhere who are fighting against what we want to do. And I
Hmm.
would not be surprised that if the textile industry felt that the movement became big enough to impact them, they'd be right there with it as well,
Yeah.
trying to fight against it. So, the society tends to impact what we can and can't do. And if
Yeah.
society tells you need the newest, sweater this fall or the newest
Mm.
bikini next summer,
Yeah.
then you need to go out and shell that couple $100 for whatever it is, and so that you can
That's
be
right.
in the in crowd. I've never believed that either. I'm not a brand name person. I always
Right.
loved clothes, but I always also loved when I took them off.
Right. Absolutely. More so. Yeah. If they say you buy this particular bathing suit and they make $100 million on it, that's $100 million in their pockets, as opposed to naturists. Well, now they're making $0. So now they
Yes.
have a problem with us. And I think that's where a lot of this comes from. It was nice. He said toward the end of his email, this is from JP, you sure made me want to go to the Canary Islands. I hope I know Carrie Jane is listening in the BHH Naturist Resort in Fuerteventura. See, I got
You,
to say that again.
you
I was hoping I
did.
could.
You do that so well.
That's right. Now people are fired up to go there, and she's already booked. Night and day. It seems like for a long time, but it's nothing wrong with having a waiting list if she has no openings, right?
Absolutely not. And she made me want to go to the Canary
Oh
Islands. So
yeah.
let's go. Okay.
That's right.
Let's
Book a
go.
plane today and take off. And again, that's from JP. Now, the next email is actually the gentleman put an email for him. And I said, can you record this? It's fairly lengthy. And his name is Rick. And here is the voicemail from Rick.
Hi, Frank and Lisa, and hello to all my fellow nudists, naturists, and naked people. I love your podcasts. As a lifelong naturist, it's refreshing to know that others like me are living the clothes-free life whenever possible. As an infant, I used to escape during diaper changes and go visit the neighbors. Nothing about that felt very strange to me. Later, as a young man, I learned to swim in the nude at the YMCA. Back then, suits were not allowed in the YMCA, and it was men only anyway. Ever since then, I've hated soggy swimsuits whenever it's been required. Now my wife and I enjoy sailing our boat on the Chesapeake Bay. The clothes come off before the sails go up. It's the only way to sail. In addition to our nautical activities, we're also members of ANR. In our travels, we've become very fond of Blind Creek Beach as our favorite Florida beach. We got to know the Treasure Coast Naturists who've been the driving force at Blind Creek. We've also visited Haulover Beach in South Florida. We love it too, but the traffic is really heavy, which makes it more difficult to access and is farther away from our normal Florida places. We live in Pennsylvania and visit Sunny Rest Lodge in the Pocono Mountains. It is a lovely clothes-free resort, and we'd be members if we were not nude on our sailboat all the time in the Chesapeake, all summer, spring, and fall. In fact, I'm naked on the boat right now. And once again, thank you again for all your hard work and love the podcast. Keep up the great work.
And again, that was the voicemail from Rick, a regular listener, and pretty good information out there. He's, as I mentioned, they become members of AANR, and they're also very fond of Blind Creek Beach as their favorite Florida beach. And it's interesting, they've been to Haulover, and they said, the traffic is too heavy, which makes it difficult to access. And that's true. The traffic is very heavy. But once you're there, it's worth it. And it's just great to get these emails/voicemails from our listeners, isn't it?
Very much so. And he's right about traffic around Haulover. Any part of the South Florida is, a parking lot for the most part. But yeah, it's really wonderful because it's also nice for people who've never been to these places to hear from people who have and know that they enjoyed it. So it's a good incentive to try it for others who may have been reluctant to try a resort or go to a beach. And I think it's great. And there's some fun times to be had, and just laying out in the sun, enjoying it, and not having to worry about it.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who are boaters, whether they're sailboats or motorboats, whatever they have. They can't wait to get up every day, take the boat out on the water, get far enough away from the shore, and the clothes come off. And that's just how they spend all day naked on the water. Whether they jump in or not is irrelevant. Sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. But just to be nude on the boat in the middle of the lake, the ocean, I've not done that before. I just haven't gotten around to it. I definitely will at some point. But that has to be an amazing journey. And have you done that before?
Yes, I have, and had the pleasure of doing that not only on lakes but also in the ocean, in the Gulf of Mexico predominantly. And it's wonderful. You go out far enough, there's no one around you. Even if you can still see land, they can't see you. And off comes the bathing suit, and on goes the all over tan. So it's very freeing. Not in a sailboat, because there's a lot of movement on sailboats. You have to work hard at sailing. So just put on the motor and motor out and throw anchor and just enjoy being in the middle of the water naked. And it's a wonderful feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, it's something, again, I've not experienced, just haven't had the opportunity to do so, or haven't made the opportunity to do so, but will
You should.
do so at some point. And yeah, just get out there and enjoy it, and enjoy the sun, enjoy clothes for living for all the right reasons, all of the stuff we mention all of the time. And we definitely thank Rick for that. Now, if you noticed in his email, he mentioned they live close to a resort in the Pocono Mountains, but they're not members there because they're always on their sailboat in the Chesapeake Bay all spring, all summer, and all fall. Now, that's the way to live, isn't it?
I envy them because the Chesapeake Bay area is beautiful, and what
Yeah.
an incredible way to spend their time, just enjoying that view from there, much less that whole area. And I have a friend who's a Maryland crab fanatic, so she would be extremely jealous of them being
Oh,
in Chesapeake Bay. Good eating there too, as well as
yeah.
good naked sunning.
You concerned me there because you stopped for me. So I have a friend who's a Maryland crab. And then you thought, I thought, whoa, we're doing something else in the show today, but she's not
No,
a crab.
no. She's a
All
crab
right.
fanatic. Loves her Maryland crab. So
Okay. We just thought we'd better clear that up in case your friend is
yes,
listening. We don't
yes.
want
She's not even crabby.
you to.
So,
Oh,
so
good. All right. Well, we again thank all of our listeners for listening, of course, and today to JP and Rick for their email and voicemail. And Lisa, thank you very much again. Always great to have you as a part of the show. Glad you're here. Our listeners enjoy hearing from you. And I'll let you go, but only if you promise to keep smiling the rest of the day and stay clothes free the rest of the day, other than when you're leaving to go to your car to get home.
Yeah, well, I will do all of the above. I do try to stay in a good mood. It's not always easy, but I try. And yes, unfortunately, I will get dressed to, you know, make the
Yeah.
journey. But it's just so much better being without clothes.
No, it's not even close. Yeah. And we're still fighting that fight in society. You take your clothes off. Well, you guys are a little bit weird. You must be up to something
Yeah.
nefarious of a sexual nature. Not true. It literally never enters my mind. It's just the clothes free living. I hate to use this word because it sounds like I'm making a pun, but I'm not. It strips away everything, mentally, socially, emotionally, everything. You just feel free.
It goes back to that first moment that I walked outside and said, you know what? I'm going to try this. And off
Mhm.
came the t-shirt and the shorts and I'm like, why didn't I do this before? Because it was just an unbelievable sense of being free. So that might be why we smile a lot.
That could be it. All right. Great to talk to you today. Our weekly correspondent, Lisa Monroe. Have a great clothes free day, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, Frank, you too. Take care.
All right. Thank you. The terrific Lisa Monroe. I still think we need to get her dance to her theme song on video and put it out there. I think it'll go viral. I think we'll break the internet. She's actually a very good dancer, moves and grooves very well with the beat. Not kidding, not making that up, certainly not making fun of her. A very intelligent woman, speaks well, writes extremely well, adds a lot to this show, and knows how to dance. So we appreciate that. And she's always in a very good mood. Can't stress that enough. You ever meet somebody who's always in a good mood? I know a few people like that. She's one of them. She never brings clouds when she walks into a room, always sunshine and happiness and ready to go. And I know when we first met her, we thought, is anybody really this happy? Well, turns out, yes. Happy Lisa Monroe. So we thank Lisa for all of her time, as always. You are listening to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 20 today. We thank you for being with us. A brand new show every Saturday morning, 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. And since this is episode 20, yeah, it's the 20th week. This is our 20th week doing the show, the 20th episode, and we enjoy every second of it. We enjoy connecting with you through the show, with you listening, through email, through direct messages, through messages on Spotify and our website. However you connect with us, we enjoy. We can feel the connection during the show. Clothes-free living for all the right reasons, totally normal, needs to be normalized and accepted more in society. A lot of people out there, people I know well, intelligent people, who will tell me, well, having your clothes off is just weird. That's because that's how they were conditioned to believe. Not true. It is not true that it's weird. It's true that it's very normal. Putting clothes on is the weird part. And eventually we'll get there. We are getting there, one person at a time. So hang in there. And before you know it, it'll be totally normal wherever we go. And again, Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 20 today. Thank you very much for being with us. And now let's head to part 2 of my interview with the very terrific Tim Chismar. I heard you tell a story on another show a few years ago. You were headlining these comedy clubs, and of course, on the marquee, there's Tim Chismar, capital letters, bold print above everybody else's name. And then, Thursday through Sunday now appearing. And some point you'd leave Sunday night with, check in hand. You got paid well, but they were busy changing the sign to somebody else. And you realized, wow, these people have already moved on. Maybe I should too as well. So that's kind of part of what prompted your move to Idaho.
It absolutely did. It's kind of it's cool that you heard that because that was a real big emotional. I guess it was like footprints in the sand on a beach. It made me feel like no matter what I do, how good it is. Here's your money, move on, kid. Somebody else is coming to town. And it's an industry I didn't want to have to fight forever. I didn't want to have to keep saying, here's how good I am, give me another shot. Here's how good I am, give me another shot. And it works like that at all the levels. When you're the headliner, it still doesn't matter. You can get bumped. Okay, let's say you're the headliner for an improv, and so you're the name for the weekend. Well, if Dave Chappelle says that he's in town, you're done. You're out of there.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and so there's this pecking order where you're always fighting to stay alive and relevant.
Yeah.
And hey, remember me? I had a dear friend of mine who was a headliner, and he was the weekend guy. And I showed up at the back door, and the general manager came out and said, comedians aren't allowed to hang out back here. Remember, I had been selling out his club on weekdays,
Yeah.
but here
Yeah.
we were on the weekend, and I showed up, and he didn't want me to hang out back there with his weekend headliner. And I was very upset about it. And my
Mm.
friend was walking me to the front of the venue to get me comped in so I can go and sit down in the audience in the back or whatever. And I was frustrated, I was annoyed, and I was sharing that with him. And he broke my paradigm by saying, "You think you're mad? I'm the headliner." So as frustrated as you are, I'm
Yeah.
the weekend headliner, and I'm not allowed to have my friend in the green room. Now,
Yeah.
within the zeitgeist of the comedy business, what probably happened was some idiot comic had, ran up a bar tab on a
Mm.
previous show, or had,
Sure.
barfed in the green room, or something that I was getting chewed out about just because I
Right.
was there. But that's
Yeah.
not the point. The point is that's the kind of industry it is, where
Yeah.
you can never settle in, nothing's ever good enough. You can never be I do coaching for people in Hollywood right now, and I can tell you
Yeah.
for a fact, I have a guy that his dream, his passion was to write for a television show. I managed to get him I got him a gig writing for Ellen. His
Oh.
season got nominated for an Emmy. He was fired from the show, and while he's sitting at home frustrated because he finally got the job he always wanted, that season that he wrote for it got nominated and won an Emmy. They
Oh my
mailed
God.
him his Emmy, and he called me up depressed as you can imagine, because
Sure.
here he is with an Emmy, which should tell you he's a good writer, but he's
Yeah.
fired from that show. So he didn't, am I a success? Am I a failure? That's what that industry does to people.
Yeah. And that'll mess you up short term and long term if you're not careful, if you stay in it forever. So I'm glad you got out of there. Well, what are you doing? We're talking to Tim Chismar this morning, Mr. Everything in Hollywood and Vegas and Idaho and Pennsylvania before that, big in the world of nudism. What have you been doing for Stefan Deshane, his Naturist Living show? I've heard every episode of his, so I know you've been on there a number of times, but how is that going and what are you looking to do there and what have you done?
I am a huge supporter of the podcast and Stefan. I think he's a great gentleman, and I think he is. I think he's one of the guys that he's one of the people that practice what he preaches. He says what he believes, and he backs it up. He lives it that way. I cannot. I've never been to his resort. I'm dying to go to Bear Oaks. I want to see it,
Yeah.
and he's given me permission to shoot a movie on the grounds. So at some
Wow.
point, I'm going to go up there and I'm going to get something done. I've got a script that I've been
Yeah.
looking at where I should shoot it. I've been thinking
Yeah.
about Lupin Lodge. I've been thinking about Bear Oaks.
Mm.
But I love Stefan. I love the podcast, and I'm a roaming reporter. So every so
Yeah.
often I'll interview people and send the audio to him to use on his show. And
Yeah.
he is just, like I said, he's soul of the earth. He's a good man. And like I told you, when you try to get anything done, some people like you, some people hate you. I did an appearance on his show, and he had a bunch of people say, some crap about me, and he had my back. He was like, "Listen, he's a good dude, blah blah blah." But no matter what you do, you can't please everybody. But I love Stefan, and I right now I'll give you a little tidbit behind the curtain. I interviewed Nikki Hoffman
Hmm.
for that's going to go on one of his episodes. I also interviewed a
Hmm.
bunch of people around Beta Breakers, including Dan Hawkins. So that's going
Okay.
to go on an episode. And he thought it would be a good topic, and I agree, for me to get three actors who will never do nudity and
Wow.
three actors who love to do nudity, and have that discussion. Why? And not try to convince anybody, but just hear
Yeah.
the reasons why. Because I'm
Yeah.
fascinated by, why would you be okay as an actor? And when I say actor, I mean actress, actor. I'm using them both, guys and
Sure.
girls.
Yeah.
And but why would you be okay simulating a sexual act with no
Yeah.
nudity, but
Right.
not be okay with doing something such as playing volleyball where you're naked and it's non-sexual. In my head, I would think it would be way more creepy for your family and neighbors and friends to see this sexual thing, even if there's no nudity, versus,
Yeah.
you have a scene in a communal shower or something.
Yeah.
So I'm fascinated to have that discussion.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear that interview. Is that coming up soon, or do we know? Is it just down the road?
It very close. I mean, I could shoot it this week. It's pretty fun. I'm
Oh,
working with the Podcast Producers Guild out here in Las Vegas. I'm not a
yeah.
tech guy, and so they're handling a lot of the tech for me, which is great.
Okay.
It's allowing me to get more and more stuff done. I've been doing a bunch of interviews with comedians and wrestlers, and I have a show coming up in 3 weeks. I don't know when this will air, but I have a show coming up early September with Mitch Fattel, who is if you know anything about comedy, he's been on Howard Stern and Jay Leno. He's had Showtime specials, and so we were filming a bunch of stuff to promo that. So anyway, very exciting, and I love working with Stefan. I love the whole podcasting shtick in general.
Yeah, 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 definitely. So, now let's talk about you made a movie. I'll just call it the Tim Chismar naked movie, The Noodles of Nude Land. I think it just came out last year. Maybe just take us through that. What is this all about? The inspiration? How's it done for you? And are you looking to maybe do a sequel or another one down the road?
Frank Stone, I'm starting to think you haven't seen it.
I've seen bits and pieces. I have not purchased it. That is a sin that I have. I am confessing to you, Father Tim.
I can send you a link if $15 is too rich for your blood there, Frank Stone. But yes, here's the thing. I desperately wanted to do a nudist comedy that was legitimately nudist. And this nudist
Mhm.
comedy is the first true nudist comedy that's ever been made. When I say that, people can go to bat with whatever pops in your head as a nudist movie. But I will argue, just like I did in this wonderful article in N Magazine, where before I got in on the interview with the guy who was interviewing me, he had a preconceived notion about the movie, and by the time he got off the phone with me, he was in love with what I had done. So
Wow.
here's the thing: if you compare it to Maslin Beach or Educating Julie or Act Naturally or any of these movies, my big argument is my movie has real nudists. If you walk up to them and you say, I saw you in this movie,
Yeah.
what do you think of nudism? They're going to say, I love it. I'll see you at the nude beach on Saturday.
Yeah.
My movie has real nudists, real nudists. That makes a huge difference. It also
Yeah.
doesn't have people trying to hide their genitalia like Austin Powers, where they're holding a clipboard in front of them, or that's
Yeah.
what you find with a lot of these movies where they try to dance
Yeah.
around it. Either it's people who um it's poorly written, it's poorly shot, it doesn't have real nudists, it doesn't have a good humor in it. Some people like Act Naturally, and that's totally fine. I know JP, and I did comedy shows with Katie Hall, who was the star of that movie, but it's not a nudist movie. It's not. It uses actors and actresses who are not identifying with being a nudist, and they literally had their agents discussing how long they could be naked on screen. Okay, well, I only want to be nude for 30 seconds, and they have lines like I wanna F your smile. And I said F because I know we're doing
Yeah.
a, a kind
Appreciate that.
podcast with no dirty language. But when you have a
Yeah.
line like that in the
Uh,
movie, it's not the nudist mindset. And
right.
that's
Right.
important to me. So what the Noodles of Noodlin is I put my money where my mouth was. I tried to approach a lot of people about investing in a movie to see if there was a market for a truly nudist comedy. One of the people I approached was Anner. I spoke to one of the directors at the time, and I was like, "Hey, why don't you put some money into this thing? And where it goes, you can make money for the organization." Anyway, a lot of people just kind of wanted to see what would happen. So I said, "All right." I picked up two very modest investors, and then put the rest of the money up myself. I teamed up with Corky Stanton for CloseFree.com, and we used a nudist bed and breakfast as the resort in Altadena, California. It's owned by Rolf Hallbach. Him and Cynthia are longtime nudists. They run the SCNA, the Southern California Naturist Association. Plus, they're in the what's the nudist bed and breakfast group? The Clothing Optional Home Network. That's what they're called.
Okay. Okay.
So I gathered a handful. It's like that stone soup fable, if you've ever heard this, where the two guys are like army vets or whatever, and they come to a town and they don't have any money and they want to eat some food, and they ask for food, and everyone's like, we're not going to give you any food. And so they get a big pot, they put stones in it, and people start being curious about, what are you doing? And they said, we're making stone soup. And then pretty soon somebody's like, that's ridiculous. Well, I mean, if you're making stone soup, you should probably have some cabbage. And then somebody else, well, I mean, if you're making stone soup, you should probably have some carrots. And then pretty soon some potatoes, and then some broth, and then, well, you should probably have some meat. And by the end of it, you have an actual soup and a stew, and everybody enjoys it, everybody loves it. So I put up a little bit of my own money, a handful of friends, and we just had blessing after blessing. When we all came together, word got out, and more people wanted to get involved, and more people wanted to
Mm.
participate. And I got music, and I got animation, and I got an original song, and I got, celebrities in the nudist world doing cameos and additional footage, and we used drones. And by the time we were done, we had ourselves a silly, wacky, goofy, fun, fully nudist comedy. And
Yeah.
I can honestly say that it's on 5 streaming services, and we have made probably 8 times the budget back, and then
Wow.
some. So it is a proof
Wow.
of concept that is so big that I was even able to go after Josie Konski, who is a guy who works with Clint Eastwood, and he put up a modest budget to shoot another show. This one is a television show, and it's a naked talent show called Naked and Not Afraid. And
Oh yeah,
so
I heard about that. Yeah.
yeah, so we shot that in Pasadena, and it's in post production. It should go up
Yeah.
very shortly here, but it's very exciting. It's very fun. I was able to do a similar thing where I brought a bunch of people together, and at this point,
Yeah.
I've done real. When I say real, I mean like mainstream movies with like budgets
Yeah.
of 600,000, and those have been sold to major distributors like Indie Rights, etc. So
Right.
I can show in the nudist world that I can make content and sell it to a streaming service, and I can do things with a bigger budget. So my next plan is to take both and do a nudist horror movie called Naked Alien Massacre, and do it at the budget of something more mainstream, but do it clever and smart enough that I can please all the masters. So that's currently what I'm working on. There's a movie I'm doing right now called Last Sunset of the Peaceful Warrior, and it's kind of like a Mortal Kombat in hell. But after that's done, my next
Yeah.
one is going to be the nudist horror movie. So
See, you're always thinking, and before the interview started, we talked about retiring, and you're never going to retire, Tim. You'll be 193 years old, still making the next film. I just know how you are.
it's a life that not everyone can lead. I'm a
Yeah.
successful risk taker. The kind of stuff that I do in the life that I live, you would think that would never work out, but it works for me.
Right, exactly, exactly. Now, you mentioned, and I know this, I knew this before you mentioned it, but you're doing some work with Clothes Free. I think it's closefree.com. What in the world's going on with that?
Oh, stuff all the time.
Yeah,
It's great
right.
being a nudes caster, and I am consistently seeking out new people, personalities, interviews for Corky Stanton, and
Mm.
trying to break outside of the bubble. Because the thing is, there is a nudist bubble of the same places, and so I'm trying to get out to different areas, new events, new people, and just try to show more of a spectrum of what else is out. Like, for example, like, there's a million stories about Florida, California. I can't name one nudist resort in Oklahoma. And then outside of nudist resorts and beaches and all that, the World Naked Bike Ride tends to be covered in some of the major cities like Portland, etc. But I'd like to
Right.
see some of the other areas when it gets started. The activism side is very exciting.
Yeah,
So a lot of I'll try to combine these events
yeah.
and festivals and nude concerts and body painting, etc., and tie it into clothesfree.com. We're even looking at spinning off outside of just strictly news into more of the entertainment stuff, which is what I'm doing. So there may be like an app for. It wouldn't it be great to have a nudist channel, a
Yeah.
TV channel, which is just nudist content, nudist movies,
Yeah.
nudist, all this kind of to normalize nudity.
Yeah, no, very much so, and you're definitely on the cutting edge of all of this, and I think that's what makes you special in our eyes. Tim, is you're out there, like you said, you're out there, you're doing it, you're taking risks, and you're doing things that nobody has done before. And son of a gun, you're highly successful. That says a lot about you.
I'm getting the conversation going, and it's
Yeah.
it's constantly, a battle. Like, for example, I live in Las Vegas, And sadly, Las Vegas has nudity tied to sex. So
Yeah.
they'll do the porn awards, and they have swinger clubs, and they'll have strip clubs and sex workers and all this. But what they won't have is non-sexual nudity. If you try to
Oh,
do non-sexual nude events, there is a club here in Las Vegas that I have reported because they claim that they are affiliated with Anner, but they're a sex club. They are a
oh boy.
couples club, and when you hit them up, they tell you to find a cute girl and come and join them.
Yeah.
So I'm that's a battle I'm fighting right now. I'm going to I've gotten proof and tried to show it, but unfortunately, a lot of nudist organizations have lost clubs due to COVID and lack of
Sure.
interest in nudism. And so they're afraid. Whereas back in the day, if a club did anything too sexual, the organization wanted to take away their name because it made them look bad. Nowadays,
Right.
they're less likely to want to take away their name because they have so
Yeah.
few clubs. They don't want to lose the
Yeah.
few they have. And so they're
Yeah.
they're sadly looking the other way when I don't think they should. And so this is one
Yeah.
of those internal battles that I'm fighting here in Las Vegas.
Yeah, yeah, well done. Now you've done the World Naked Bike Ride and you've done the Beta Breakers. Maybe give us a thoughts on each one, how it went for you, and will you do either one again?
Oh, they're great. I love it.
Yep.
I love it. It's so wonderful to see people actually living it and doing it and appreciating it. And I want to go to every World Naked Bike Ride. In particular, the
Yep.
one that I've attended a ton is in LA. It is so much fun, so great, such a blast. There are so I could talk for an hour just about the experiences and like for example, covering it for clothes free. There are spots along the bike ride where people would stop to take these giant photos where everyone's naked, but it's out in public. It's during the
Yeah.
textile. And so you run
Yeah.
into local security guards and they come running over like, "What are you doing?" And so it's real fun. Like if I get there beforehand and it's me and like three other naked
Uh,
people and they
yeah.
come running over because they don't know what's going on. And then I tell them, "Hey, it's World Naked Bike Ride. The cops know about this." And they're like, "What are you talking about? Get out of here." And I say, "Just give us 2 minutes. There's
Yeah.
going to be hundreds of naked people and they think I'm crazy." And then
Yeah.
2 minutes later, they're outnumbered by about 700 naked bodies. And then I have me on camera walking up to the same security cops being like, "Did you learn something today?" So it is a blast. And when it comes to beta breakers, that's one of those things
Uh,
that I had heard rumors about that it was good, that it was bad. On the good side, people are like, "Oh, nudity is allowed and encouraged, and it's celebrated by the city, and it's such a blast." Families and everybody. But I've also had people tell me horror stories about a rogue cop coming up and demanding they put clothes on, saying, "There's kids around here, blah, blah, blah." Well, I went to it and I can tell you that I had both. I experienced that it was amazing
oh,
and wonderful and fun. And I had a rogue park ranger
oh
approach
boy.
and order a bunch of us to put our clothes on. And he
Wow.
said that we would get arrested or cited if we didn't put our clothes on. His name is A. Fisher was the guy's name, and I ended up that was his name, A. Fisher. It was on his
Yeah.
badge, and I will say that until I'm dead. And
Yeah.
and so we put our clothes back on until we walked by him, and then most of us got naked again. But obviously, for some of those people, it was their first time doing this. And now they were so
Yeah.
afraid. They didn't want to get arrested. They didn't want to get
Yeah.
fined. And so some of them
Yep.
never got naked again. That was awful. And I ended up
Yeah.
calling the park ranger station and complaining about this guy later. And I got a full apology. And they said that he didn't know about the rules and that a few hours into it, they found him. And look, maybe he knew about the rules and he was just deciding for himself that he didn't like it.
Yeah.
I'll never know. But I did get an apology from him on the phone and him saying that he would never do it again. And he even offered
Okay.
the other events that you can do nude in San Francisco. There are 4 World Naked Bike Rides. Pride, you can be naked during Pride, and of course, Beta Breakers. So when I go back this year, which I'm thinking of having a ton more cameras and a ton more people, and when we go through there, I'm gonna seek him out. I'm gonna look for him, and I want to get us shaking hands and having a laugh about it. But I discovered the joy of being an activist. I don't want to just be a nudist behind walls and bars, and
Yeah.
I want to get out there. I want to push this conversation. Why can't I go naked walking down to get the mail? Why? How is
Right.
that
Yeah. Exactly.
indecent to be? If God
Right.
wanted us to be naked, we would have been born that way.
Yeah. Just out of curiosity, thinking back to your youth, first grade, second grade, was this kind of behavior on your part exhibited? Did the teachers put notes on your report card like, Tim is always trying to tweak the system. He's always trying to get things changed in my classroom. Anything like that? Just
Yeah, that's so cool that you mentioned that. Yes. Yeah, you're right. I never put two and two together, but you're right. There was
yeah.
there was a book they had us read called Of Mice and Men, and that book is full of swear words that if I'm in the hallway saying those words, I get reprimanded. But when I'm in class, I get called on to read those words. And
Yeah.
that didn't match up to me. And I remember
Yeah.
fighting that. And I went to the school board, and I had a couple other students who bucked against it. And yeah, I remember I really stirred stuff up because it wasn't fair on the surface. It's literally everything except the F word. But if you look at it,
Yeah.
it's full of profanity. And my argument was, why is it okay here but not okay here?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of logic and facts, Frank. That's
Yeah.
It's got to make sense in my world.
I'm guessing they didn't have a truly plausible answer. Just, can we make Tim go away, transfer to another school? Maybe that was their solution.
It was just I learned a lot about bureaucracy, and
Uh,
you
yeah.
pick and choose your battles in life.
Yeah, that's true. Now, what about these Jubilee videos? I know you've been doing some work with Chris Jericho. What's going on there?
So, yeah, in crossing over to mainstream, I thought I'd point that out because that's a really big deal. Chris Jericho is a wrestler, an actor, a musician. He's in a band called Fozzy that's won Grammy Awards.
Yeah.
He's all over the place, and I got to interview him at San Diego Comic Con. I got on his show, his podcast,
Mhm.
once, and I blew the roof off the place. Then I came back and did another great one. And so when I was on for the third time, I pitched for him to let me talk about nudism. And
Well,
I pitched and I pitched and I pitched, and I finally, he said, all right, I sold him because he loves rock and roll. And I said, what's more rock and roll than hundreds of naked people walking through a city? And and so yeah, I was able to do a whole episode, and he titled it Join the Nude Revolution. And so I did an
yeah.
hour on his podcast, which got a ton of acclaim and a ton of attention. And it's
Mm,
such a big deal. And I just mentioned that because, like the Jubilee videos, which is a secular outside of nudism, uh, to use religious language, I'm just saying they're not nudists. So they did these videos where it's called Spectrum. They would get all these people together who supposedly would think alike, but then they would pose these questions that would make you debate and discuss and argue. So they got a bunch of nudists together, and it was such a hit that it
yeah.
had over 1 million views. It went viral. I
Wow.
was the one who was the most vocal, who's gotten a lot of attention, and a lot of spin-offs, a lot of reaction videos, a lot of TikToks. And then they asked me to come back about a year later to do another one, where this time they wanted to line up textiles that we hadn't spoken before, and they would just ask me questions about the nudist lifestyle. And I said I won't do it alone because they're going to ask questions about women. So I made sure I didn't want to be the fat white guy sitting there talking about women's periods and toplessness. And so I made
Sure.
sure that it was me and Juliana Acosta, my lead from the Noodles and Noodland. And so it
Mhm.
was nudist guy, nudist Latino woman, and we fielded all the questions. But that also was another viral hit. And so if you go on YouTube, you can see them fully nude at a private link, or you can see it censored, which is for everybody. And for
Mhm.
both of them, it's a huge viral sensation, and it gets the conversation going about non-sexual nudity.
Yeah, no, you're doing great work out there. Now, you mentioned earlier in the interview you got this 3-book deal because they thought they had insulted you. Those 3 books are on the market now, right?
Yes. And more
Yeah.
than that, I've sold a ton of short stories. I'm probably the only guy you'll ever talk to who's written for Chicken Soup for the Soul and Fangoria magazine. So my stuff's all over the map. I'm currently so yeah, if somebody wants to check something, I would recommend picking up Modern Madness, Gateway to the Grotesque, if you like scary stuff. There's even an adaptation of the screenplay for the movie I want to do, the Nudist horror movie. It's in that book. So I adapted it into
Oh,
a long novella, and it's Night of the Naked Hunter is what I call it in there. So Modern Madness, Gateway to the Grotesque. I also do comic books, and I was telling you before this got started that I want to get into nudist comic books like Loxy and
mhm.
Zoot, so that when you go to San Diego Comic Con, nudist nerds are represented as well. So
Oh, there you go. Well, I love the creative side, but also the how do I describe this? The wild side to you, Tim. You're just willing to try anything and everything. And it seems like everything works for you. Maybe that's why, because you're willing to actually do it, and you put a lot of time and thought into it. You don't just go in there willy nilly and give it a shot. You've actually thought these things out. I think this can work. You go in, you do it, and it works. It's an amazing recipe, isn't it, for success?
I hope so. I hope so.
Yeah,
Because the thing is, nudists don't belong in the closet. That's where
yeah.
clothes is.
That's well said. Now, before I let you go, obviously people are going to want to hear more about you or find out more about you. And most people already know about you, but in case we get a few people here that don't, how do they find more about you? You have a website, anything you want to put out there, social media? Just tell us how to find you.
Yes, I have a great tech team, and they've been waiting for me to update these websites. But you can find out more about me at nudisthumorist.com. I also work with clothesfree.com, but nudisthumorist.com is going to have the TV show, and it already has the movie, which we've got so many bonus features and interviews and extras and all that kind of stuff on there. I'm on social media. I'm on Instagram at Tim Chismar if they haven't canceled me, and and I'm on Facebook as Timothy Chismar. You know, the rules for these stupid things changes every other day, so you never.
That's it, man.
I got kicked off of Twitter and I got kicked off of Facebook before. I joined a private group and it was supposedly for nudists, but as soon as I posted some naked pictures, I get kicked off. So it's algorithms and terminology and just you know what, buddy, I just want to buy a log cabin in the woods and just be
Yeah.
naked out there and be a naked Hunter S. Thompson. I just want to shoot my guns and be naked. That's all I want.
I understand. I fully understand. Well, you're doing great work out there. You're highly admired and respected here at the studio. So anytime you want to come on, Tim, we'll make a way for you. We'll make a home for you. Just let us know.
Hey, be careful. I might end up roping you into a movie like I did Stefan.
That's right. I don't have the mustache, though. I can still come on.
You,
I have a mustache, but not one like his.
you have time to start growing one.
Okay. It's been great to talk to you. I want you to check him out, Tim Chismar, and throw the website out there again before I let you go.
Sure. Nudisthumorist.com. And it's only fair since he gave me a shout out. I want to say that Dan Hawkins, D.H. Jonathan, great books, great guy.
Yeah.
He featured me in one of his damn books.
Oh, I didn't realize that. I'm still on the first one, the volunteer. I bought the audio one. I'm still listening to it. I got a couple hours left. Which one are you in of those three?
I'm trying to think of the name off the top of my head. I think it's the third one. It's the most recent one
Okay.
that came out.
Yeah.
In the last chapter, his character, she runs into me and Corky recording for Clothes Free at a naked bike ride.
There you go. That's perfect. That is perfect. Need to hang together and do this work together and promote each other. You're doing great work.
I've come full circle. I'm in a nudist book.
That's right.
I'm gonna live forever.
Now you know you've achieved total success, Tim. We've been talking to Tim Chismar today. Check him out. And Tim Chismar, thank you for everything. And let's definitely do this again soon.
That'd be great. Thanks, man.
All right, have a great day. You ever meet somebody in your life who just gets it, as in gets everything? That's Tim Chismar. He gets the writing thing. He gets the making movies thing. He gets the acting thing. He gets the interviewing thing, being the interviewer as well as the interviewee. He gets the whole comedy thing. And he gets the clothes-free living, nudism, naturism. He gets all of that too. Just a truly remarkable individual, highly intelligent, obviously, and very gifted in so many different areas. And we invite you to check him out even more so. Go to his website, timchismar.com. Check out his books, check out his movies, and certainly check out clothesfree.com for all of the work that he does there as well. And we thank Tim Chismar for all of his time on today's show as well as last week. Just a terrific guest, and we will certainly get together with him again down the road. Tim Chismar. So what are your plans for the rest of the day? Will you be clothes-free? Do you have to wear clothes? Depending on where you are, north of the equator, of course, it's getting cold now. South of the equator, it's getting warm now, so things are changing over for sure. But even when it's cold outside, that does not mean that you cannot be clothes-free inside. Just keep warm, maybe jack up the heat just a little bit, put on a robe or something if you need to. Otherwise, clothes-free living. It takes everything away, all the bad stuff away, and you can just live your life as it was intended to be lived. And again, you've been listening to Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 20 today. We really enjoy this time together. Cannot stress that enough, cannot say it enough. We look forward to spending time with you on this show and connecting. Nudism, naked, naturism, clothes-free living for all of the right reasons. You've come to the right place, and we certainly enjoy all of the time that we spend together here on the show. Don't forget to send us a direct message or an email or hit us up on Spotify or our website. Well, thank you again for being with us today on Naked, Nudist, and Naturist, episode 20 today. We give you a brand new show every Saturday morning at 6 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. Continue to join us. Check us out on our website, nakednudistandnaturist.com, Spotify, Google, Amazon/Audible, Apple Podcasts, and also on Twitter. You can write us anywhere, anytime, any place. And we thank you for being with us today. Plan to join us for every single one of our shows here and have your clothes off when you're listening. We have our clothes off when we're broadcasting, enjoying the naturist life.
We celebrate clothes-free living for all. Remember to enjoy being naked and join us again for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist.
We drop a brand new show every Saturday morning, so come back and join us. Have your clothes off when you do for Naked, Nudist, and Naturist. Have a great clothes-free day.